Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Following on from the other video about giving zakat early, a few important issues about zakat should be mentioned. The first is that just because there's been an earthquake doesn't mean that the people are eligible for zakat. Suffering an earthquake does not make you eligible for zakat. The other conditions for zakat will still need to be met by the recipient for your zakat to be valid. Now obviously the earthquake will have probably qualified them for zakat, but just remember that it's just having an earthquake doesn't make them qualified for zakat. They must meet the other conditions of zakat, and your local ulama can tell you those in detail. The other thing to remember is that you cannot give zakat to the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you cannot give zakat to the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many reasons for that, which we won't go into now. So you may ask, that's not fair. Why can't we give zakat to them? What they're going to do? Well, the ulama responded by saying that zakat is only 2.5% of your wealth. What's the other 97.5% for? If you can't give that to the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if you gave all your wealth to the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you would never fulfill their right and their worth. So you have other money that you should give to the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You cannot give them zakat. The other thing to remember is that when you do give your zakat, at the time of handing it over, you must have the intention that this is zakat money that I am offering. So it's important that you make the intention of zakat money when you give it over. You don't need to tell the recipient that this is zakat money, because your zakat is your ibadah, it's your worship. It's important for you to know that it's zakat money. It's not a condition for the recipient to know it's zakat money. If you tell them, that's fine. Sometimes you may not want to tell them because it may, affect their honor or prestige and dignity. But if they are, because they don't want to receive zakat, but obviously if they need it, then they should take it. But you don't need to tell them. But do remember this, that if you're giving it zakat through an intermediary like a charity or an organization, then you must tell them that this is zakat, because they will obviously pass it on to somebody who's eligible for zakat. If you don't tell them it's zakat, they may pass it on to somebody who's not eligible for zakat because they didn't know whether it was zakat or whether it was a normal charity. So you must make it clear to them that this is zakat money if you're paying through a charity or intermediary. And then obviously they don't need to tell the recipient, but they will need to know to make sure it goes to the right place. Some people are now saying that, how can I trust these charities and organizations? I'm not here to condone or condemn any organization. You need to do your own due diligence. That's your responsibility to do that and pass it over. Do remember this, don't use that as an excuse not to give. If you don't trust these charities or any organization, then it's incumbent upon you to go directly and give it to the recipients, give it to the poor people. The charities are here and these organizations, the intermediaries are there as a service to us to help us make sure our zakat and charity gets to the right place. If for some reason you don't trust them, don't use that as an excuse to do nothing. You can't just sit at home. You've got to get up, put your shoes on and get out there and get the zakat to them yourselves if you don't trust them, because what's incumbent upon you is to make sure your sadaqah, your charity and your help gets to the needy. So don't use that as an excuse. You must make sure that you are helping out our brothers and sisters, both in Islam and in humanity, when the need arises. The other point to remember again, you cannot give zakat to a non-Muslim. Zakat has to be given to a Muslim. One of the conditions. We won't go to all of that. If there are non-Muslims, then obviously you can help them with the other 97.5% of your wealth and other wealth. Just because you can't give them zakat doesn't mean you don't help non-Muslims. If they are in need, then as a fellow human being, we should help them as much as possible as well. May Allah Ta'ala guide us to the straight path and give us the ability to help our brothers and sisters in need. And may Allah Ta'ala protect us from ever becoming needy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.